Now, in today's video, I'm going to show you something that is controversial, and the majority of people watching this won't even attempt successfully at doing this. But if you're part of that 1% that wants to get consistent erections, wants to fix their arousal, wants to get rid of the corn and the dopamine and all these things that are destroying their life, you'll implement this one thing that I'm going to talk about. Now, I've gone over 500 plus days on NoFap and even cured my corn-induced ED during that time. In today's video, we are talking about retention, semen retention. Now, it's interesting because a lot of people see so many different things online about, retaining your seed. Is it good for you? Is it bad for you? All these different things, right? And today, I really don't even want to focus on the morality thing. Is it good or bad for you? But I want to talk about delayed gratification, right? Because that's the most important thing here. It's not about, whether you go on this diet or, you kind of retain or you do all of these things, right? It's not about all of that. If you want, there's a gap right now between the man you are right now and the man you want to be. And the quickest way to get there is delayed gratification. Now, in a world of instant gratification where all we see, right, and all they want to pitch us is, get things at the snap of a finger, right? Whether it's food, right? Whether that's, taking a ride somewhere else, whether that's getting something done, right? Everything is just so much faster, right? And it kind of trains our mind for this immediate dopamine hit, right? Even if you think of the adult content, right? What is someone doing? They have an urge, and instead of using that urge to improve themselves, right, to become the type of partner that would, become the type of man that would attract the level of partner they would want, they go use that energy and basically deplete themselves, right? And it doesn't make you feel good, right, when someone does the PMO and relapses, right? Never. You never come out of that saying, I feel like a better man, right? Never. And what's interesting about this delayed gratification is it really works in all areas of life, right? And I think this is really the key to reversing, if you're struggling with the ED, right? You're struggling to consistently get it up, right? You're struggling with the corn. At its core foundation, delayed gratification is sacrificing the current moment for a better tomorrow, right? It's as simple as that. And what happens when you do this, and if you think about how this can work in these different areas, right? Let's just talk about the corn. What happens when you practice delayed gratification? One, instead of using that energy to, basically open up your phone, take the easy way out and relapse, you go ahead and use that energy for something productive. So what is that? That could be working out, right? That could be reading, that could be meditating, right? That could be approaching women, right? But you're doing things that can make you a better, higher quality man that would attract the type of partner that you can see on those screens, right? And what this strangely does as well, and how it relates to, being able to consistently get it up, right? Have the consistent performance is this. When we think of performance, I almost want you to think of yourself as an athlete, right? When you want consistency in anything, you have something called inputs, right? Inputs and outputs. So inputs are the things that you can directly control. And those things that you can directly control are, what's in your capability to actually change. And then the outputs, right? The end result are a lot of times things that we can't just necessarily change directly, right? We have to change them indirectly. And this is no different, right? And when we look at this, right, for something like performance, let's think even something as simple as sleep, right? We all know going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time makes you feel better. It makes you feel rested. Your body works better. You're less stressed. Your hormones work better. All of these things, right? Something very simple. Now, instant gratification would tell you, man, let's stay up, let's eat junk food, let's not go to bed on time. Let's just keep switching it up all the time and not have any consistency. Delayed gratification will literally tell you, right, and direct you to, instead of staying up, go to bed consistently on time. get your 8 hours, your 7 hours, and feel rested and recovered for the next day. Right. And when you get proper sleep, things like testosterone, right, start to increase, and you have that masculine energy that if you're not taking care of yourself all the time, you do not have that. Right. And as you start to see these small different areas get affected so much by instant and delayed gratification, right? We talk about sleep. What about things like diet, right? So let's just talk about what people traditionally eat, right? You have chips, soda, candy, all of these things that are inflammatory, right? You have a lot of different breads, pastas, pizzas, fries, right? All of these things are inflammatory. And inflammation is in direct correlation with your end goal of consistently be able to get your wood up, right? Direct conflict. But what's crazy is they put so many things into the food, right? That it gets people addicted, right? And we talked about it before, the sugars, the salts, all of these things. And think about at its core, what is food meant for? At its core foundation, right? You're supposed to use food for energy, right? You're supposed to eat so that you can have the energy to do what you need to get done. That's it, right? But it's crazy how in the world we live in, things get twisted so much to where, oh, taste matters so much. I want to have a cookie. I want to have, you know, I want to have pizza. I want to have burgers, all of these things that release a lot of dopamine. But if we really boil it down to the fundamental principle, right? You're eating for fuel, right? For survival. You can't survive without food. And what things like retaining allow you to do, right? And it really shows you is that you don't need all of these other things, right? One of the biggest examples of delayed gratification is fasting, right? And of course, in this month of Ramadan right now, people are fasting. They're in fasting and in constant prayer. And what's interesting, if any of you have fasted, it almost detaches you away from the need to eat. And at times, right, you feel like you could go days without even eating. And I think that's important to really look at and see how this level of delayed gratification is showing up right in your life and how it affects all of these different areas. Because we can get so glued and in this cycle of, man, I have to eat, right? I have to watch this. I have to drink this, right? I have to go here. I have to hang out. All of these things when, man, we don't need so many things, right? You can go multiple days without food, right? You can just drink water, right? And go multiple days. And I'm not telling you to do that, but what I am saying is I guarantee you'll feel a difference once you do it, right? You won't be in that same mindset of I got to get the next dopamine hit, right? And when we take a step back and we look at this, we start to connect the dots and see how all of these different areas are connected, right? So sure, someone being addicted to the corn, right? It's just dopamine at the end of the day, and they're wired their brain for that level of dopamine, and it's just a cycle, right? And it's no different than you know eating food that releases a lot of dopamine, right? You want to go back to the food. No different than watching shorts on Instagram or all these things, right? They're training your mind in a way to require more stimulus, right? And over time, that just becomes stronger and stronger. But what we start to see when people do things like fasting, when they take time to themselves and really delay that gratification, your brain starts to work a little bit differently, right? You start to enjoy the activity more, but also you can get dopamine from other areas, right? You going outside, getting sunlight, there it being a nice day, all of these things start to play a factor in basically, getting the good dopamine per se, right? Things like working out, things like eating healthy, right? Going to sleep on time, right? Watching, sure, educational content or content that actually will benefit you instead of just entertainment. And it's not to cut out everything for good, but you got to understand there is a balance with everything. And the majority of people, when you put addictions into the equation, there is no balance, right? And I talk to people on call all the time, and you see how many times, right, people are relapsing, right? That they don't have a good diet, right? They don't sleep well, all of these things. And you see how it becomes a storm for, dysfunctions, and for you not to be at your elite level, at your potential, which you could be, right? And if you're watching this, you're a guy that wants to level up, right? And I was the same way, right? I felt like I had a ceiling. There was a potential that was there. And, the corn and the ED, right? These things really held me back from reaching that full potential, becoming the man I knew I could be. And, I spent years doing trial and error, trying to figure it out on my own. How can I just solve the PIED, right? How can I fix the corn induced ED so I can be consistent, right? So that I can have things like a family, have relationships, all these things. And it took me years to figure out. But at the end of the day, if I had to leave you with one message, it's delayed gratification. The heart of solving this problem and getting that end result, becoming the man that you want to be, you got to realize it's going to take sacrifice, right? And you can't be the same person that you are today and expect a different result, right? Because who you are is taking these similar type of actions that have had you addicted to corn for years, right? Have had you relapse in PMO for years, have had you had ED for years, right? So you have to become a different type of person. You can't be the same person and expect a different result. And if you're tired of struggling, right, you want to just fast track. You don't want to deal with the embarrassment of not being able to perform, right? And you want someone to walk you through a step by step process that has actually solved this problem on their own for good and hasn't had to return back, right? You want to just avoid the embarrassment and you want to get on with your life, have those happy and healthy relationships. Man, click the link in the description, book a call, and let's see how I can help you solve this problem. If you got some value from this video, man, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and click this video on the screen. You're not going to want to miss it.